Hi everyone, Cotswolds Girl here. How are you? Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I thought that I would jump on again today to say hi and to review a couple of my other new vintage purchases that I have bought over the last few days, and I've got a couple more coming today, hopefully. So that's all good. I decided I'd get my hair cut and put on some of my original frames. So I'm trying out a few different things, but we're here today. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday. And I've got a few books here that I want to that I'm just not sure which ones to read, and they're all very different. So I'd like to, I guess, pick your brains a little bit about which one I should go for, because as you know, I'm a massive history geek, love the kings and queens of England, and these particular books, as said, I'm not sure which one to choose next because they're all on very different topics, but it's all very, very interesting. So yeah, and then we'll just have a bit more of a chat about current affairs, what's going on, and how that then, how that can sort of relate to our world and everything, because there's so much going on in the news at the moment, and so much other stuff that's now come out again this weekend about the whole Prince Andrew JE saga. More photos that just, when you're inclined to give someone the benefit of the doubt, when you're inclined to say, okay, well, maybe it could be this or maybe it could be that, when more little bombs start to drop, you start to think, well, this, all roads lead to Rome, and you just have to sort of really wonder a little bit. And there's also a few really sketchy rumours that are coming out, and I've seen a couple of emails, just even from the mum, that have been published over the last couple of days that are just really, there's something clearly has gone on with the two daughters, and if that is the case, then honestly there's no saving them. There's literally no saving them. But look, we'll cover that in due course, but on more happier notes. Now, this is my new vintage purchase. Look at this bad boy. I'm absolutely in love with it. I think it's a 1980s. I have no idea, but I got it from one of my local people on Vinted that I've followed for a while, and honestly, I love it. So it's one of the old school ones where you can sort of take that off, and it's got like a zip thing underneath, so like proper 80s stuff. And literally, hang on, anyway, I think I got it for about 10 quid, something like that, and I absolutely love it, and I feel so retro in it, like literally so retro. So I don't know whether any of you guys have still got your original ones from the 80s and 90s. I had a pink and purple one with like matching tracksuit as a kid, and I literally used to wear it all the time. And Mum had like a similar one to this, actually, sort of a pink and blue and whatever. And honestly, during the 90s, they were the best things. They were so cool, and everyone would, you'd wear them to school, and you'd paired them with your big sort of high top trainers, and yeah, that was the thing. So you can absolutely imagine my delight when this came the other day, and I've snuggled up in it. I've literally just been for a Sunday roast in this. God knows what they thought of me down the local pub. But anyway, so if you're sort of into lots of that sort of retro stuff, I've got heaps of that on there. Lots of the, sort of 90s basketball stuff as well, which I mentioned in one of my other videos that I was really into. So you can get, anything kind of Jordan, etc. So yeah, so look, if you're into that sort of stuff, it's really, really worth it, and you can get some really good bargains. You don't have to spend a lot. So anyway, it made my day. So I hope the colours made your day as well. So the next thing that I want to ask about is I've just finished a book. And I now need to start thinking about what I want to read next. And I've got 4 books that I'm really torn between, and I don't know which one to choose. So the first one that I'm thinking about is this one. It's the Lost Memoir of Edward VIII. So that one there. And basically just to summarise it sort of goes into, like, they've found lost diaries and lost journals and all these sorts of things. And so it's obviously written posthumously, but sort of picking up on things that haven't previously been published, because it's, they were sort of hidden away, and after a bit of digging, this author's come out and found these old diaries and whatever else. So I find Edward VIII fascinating in some regards because, we all know the story about the abdication and, for the woman he loved, and, this is divorced American actress, and how much of a scandal that was at the time. How things have changed since, right? But it just fascinates me how when there's a weight of expectation on you and all of your life has led up to a certain moment, how you can just wipe all of that aside, not knowing what's going to be next, on the basis of someone else. Do you know? So I don't know. It's a fascinating thing for me, and I also think sort of a bit of what if, like if he hadn't done that, if he had been king and the crown he'd married someone else and had his own family, Queen Elizabeth wouldn't have been on the throne, and we wouldn't have the monarchy would look very different today. So so that's the first one I'm thinking of. The second one that I'm thinking of reading is this one about Edward III. Now, I'm related to Edward III. I've gone back and I've traced all of done everything through Ancestry and whatnot, and I am related to Edward III. So the topic for me is really interesting because I want to find out a bit more. So I've got this one here that I'm thinking about reading, just to, I guess, delve into a little bit more about who he was and his achievements, and all of that side of things. So that's sort of quite a personal element for me. I wonder whether it's going to be hard reading, whether it's going to be a little bit dry. I don't know. I haven't read anything from Richard Barber before, so I guess that will be something that I'll find out as we go. So that's the other one that I'm contemplating reading. The third one is one that I actually got for Christmas, and again, it's not a conspiracy theory, but because we don't have empirical proof of what happened, there's always going to be these stories, and this is about the survival of the princes in the Tower. Now, I saw Matthew Lewis when he came up and did a talk at the Cirencester History Festival, and it was a really interesting thought. It was really thought-provoking that, because we don't have empirical proof, what happens if they did actually survive? So that one is that one there. So, and again, it's one of those thought-provoking things, because we all think we know what happened, but without empirical proof, and because a lot of these things have then sort of been lost in time, it's an interesting concept to actually think about that, what if sort of scenario. So that's another one that I've been wanting to sort of delve into. And the last one, again, all history books, the last one is called The White Ship by Earl Spencer. And this one obviously surrounds the beginning of what we all now call the anarchy. So, you know, the loss of the White Ship and the heir to the throne, and then the battle between Matilda and King Stephen for the throne. So, you know, within those sort of 100-odd years that, you know, the anarchy took place, and yeah, it sort of delves into a bit of that. So, so they're my 4 choices. I'd be very interested to hear if you've read any of them, what your thoughts are, what any sort of recommendations you've got, because again, we're going away at the end of the month and I've got to take a book with me. so I'd really like to hear your thoughts. At the moment, I'm tending to think that I might go with Edward VIII, but I don't know just yet. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one. So wish me luck on that. But yeah, please put in the comments what your thoughts are. So moving on to the other things that I'd sort of mentioned earlier, just a bit of gossip really, and that's sort of in and around these new photos that have surfaced, and these emails that have come to light in surrounding that not very nice situation that we're all now very acutely aware of. One question I do have though, why is it only the Brits that this stuff is coming out about? Let's think about that for a little minute. Why is it only British people implicated and these photos are coming out? Why is it only Andrew? Why is it, you know, it's a very, there are way more people involved. There's 3 million records that are being released. There's God knows how many hours of footage, how many photos, whatever. Like, why aren't we seeing the Clintons? Or why aren't we seeing Bill Gates? Why aren't we seeing any of that? You know, why is it only the British people implicated that we're seeing any of this from? Yeah, to be honest, my humble opinion, I smell a rat. I think that there's bigger agendas at play, which is why, again, the only other thing that comes out or is said about the whole saga, the whole JE saga, is all surrounded about his involvement with British people. So, you know, I don't like it. I don't think that that's right. I think that, you know, if there's going to be any justice, it's got to be justice in totality. It can't be, you know, it can't be sectarian justice, you know, one way and not the other. I don't. So, you know, that's just my opinion. And, you know, I'd like to see a bit more of that. I'd like to see some fair and balanced reporting on all of this. But leading on from that, I guess the problem that I've got, and I follow Crazy Days and Nights. I follow a lot of other YouTube channels, ones that, you know, have their ears to the ground, ones that have obviously very, very good sources, you know, and so when we're reading about these things, and they've been saying for a while that the daughters, you know, have been involved in the scenario since they were little. And if that is the case, that makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. I hope it hasn't, but if it has, then there are some huge issues there. We all knew that one of the daughters lived very freely in her teens. We've all heard of, you know, the things that, you know, they get up to, which, you know, but with shining a new light on it, I wonder whether, you know, with the background that it now implicates, whether that was a consequence of what they went through. And it is sad and it's disturbing, but these things play out, don't they? And, you know, it's with any family and having gone through anything. Like, I mean, I went through a huge amount of trauma through my childhood, through bullying, and it only really sort of started coming out, and I started dealing with it in my 30s, which, you know, is, you know, it's pretty delayed, but it does, you know, it always does sort of come out in some way, shape or form. You know, so if you're not dealing with it at the time, you will deal with it at some point down the road. So I wonder just whether there's a bit of that starting to sort of happen. And now that the rest of this is starting to muddy the waters even further, and we're hearing that, you know, one of them has distanced themselves and they've gone to ground and blah, blah, blah. I wonder whether there's more behind it that no one is saying, but everyone sort of is it's implicated but not saying. And if that is the case, then my heart goes out to them, because it's a shocker. It's bad. But then again, if that is the case, then I'm a massive advocate for the parents being held to account for that. I'm not a big one for jumping to conclusions. I want to know all of the facts, and I want to see it with my own eyes. I don't just trust what I'm told. But when I start seeing things, and when I start knowing things have come from trusted sources and et cetera, that's when I can start to then make my, you know, believe what my eyes are seeing, make my own call about it, not just believe what I'm told just because I'm being told it from the media or from social media or YouTube or anything like that. I'll make my own mind up. But, you know, as this starts to progress, sorry, I've got an itch. You know, I'm starting to believe a bit more about what I'm seeing. And that's a bit scary. So, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear other people's thoughts. Obviously, it's sort of early days on all of this. And we've also seen now that, you know, Prince William's now doing an investigation into the girls and wanting to see their financials and all of this sort of stuff. And whether this is part of this, what has been going on that is now coming to light. And yeah, I think there's a lot more going on than a lot of us know. And I think a lot of it is being dealt with behind the scenes, which is as it should be, given the nature of it. But I strongly suspect that there's going to be a lot more coming out. So anyway, that's it is what it is. But anyway, I'm sure everyone's got their own opinion on it. And as said, this is my opinion, and I'm more than happy and willing to give it. I'm sure I'm a reasonable person, so, you know, I'm sure some people agree with me, some people won't. That's fine. But, you know, we can have a bit of a natter along the way. So look, it was great to join you today. I've got some more vintage purchases that are coming through this week that I will share with you. And yeah, I'd like to hopefully put out a couple more videos this week. So if you can please like, share, subscribe. I know I always say it, but please do. Because, you know, I get a lot of, you know, personal joy and personal satisfaction out of making these videos and putting myself out there, because I know the sort of thing that I like to watch, and I like real people. I like to have a conversation and, you know, find things interesting because, you know, other people are on Vinted, right? Like, it's nice just to sort of show a few things that we get on there, and, you know, it's a good thing. So look, have a lovely Sunday, and I will see you this week.